On Press Perspective today, we have a tasty treat for you as we delve into K dishes and their pairing based on taste and even the weather, as well as their tailoring to suit local diners. Do stay with us. Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Press Perspective for this Wednesday, May 27th here in Seoul. I'm Min Sun-hee. Today our talk, it's largely based on the latest headlines about K-food within the foreign media. For this, I have contributing writer Park Yun-san for British broadcaster, the BBC. Yun-san, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks for having me today.
I also have senior correspondent Tan Hsueh Yun at Singaporean Daily, the Straits Times, with us as well. Hsueh Yun, it's lovely to have you on.
안녕.
Right, 안녕하세요. Right, Yun-san, let's start with you. Let's begin then with the inspiration behind your article on Korean food pairing.
So I pitched this story to the BBC travel team. While there have been many food stories, Korean cuisine still wasn't getting as much coverage. And it felt like a missed opportunity given how much global interest there is in Korean food right now. When the travel team started their Know Before You Go series, I thought it would be great for an expert to introduce Korean food to the readers. And then I realized that I could be that expert. Part of the inspiration came from my own experiences in Korea. There was one time I saw someone order tteokbokki on its own, which is still great, but I remember thinking it'd be even better if they ordered sundae, mandu, or kimbap to go with it. I love Korean food, and I want people who try it to love it too. And these pairings aren't written anywhere. They're just things Korean people naturally know, and I wanted to share that insider knowledge with the readers.
You're right. A lot of those pairings that you mentioned, we take for granted, right, Yun-san?
Yeah, they're so easy to find in Korea, but it's so hard here.
Right, indeed. Hsueh Yun, you are a food journalist for the Straits Times there in Singapore, which is a top foodie destination as well, of course.
Right.
How popular then is Korean food there in Singapore?
Oh, it's so popular. If you want Korean barbecue, we have a couple of streets where you can, there's like multiple Korean barbecue restaurants and you can hop from one to another. If one is too crowded, you go to the next one. And in recent years, we've had waves of different kinds of Korean food coming. We've had Korean noodles, hot and cold. We have bibimbap, delis, popping up. And then the latest wave seems to be Korean ginseng soup. And we've got a whole bunch of brands, expanding, coming into Singapore. And even a very venerated Korean brand, Jiho, is now in Singapore.
Right, great to know, of course. Yun-san, we've been told that the global interest in Korean cuisine, it's now expanded well beyond the bibimbap that Hsueh Yun just mentioned, as well as kimchi, of course, to lesser-known dishes. Do you agree?
Yes, definitely. And Korean content, especially on Netflix, has really helped with that. Not only do we have the food competition shows, but the specials on street food, broth, famous chefs. Korean films, TV, music also play a big part. People see actors eating ramyeon and kimbap by the Han River, and they want to try it too. I know I did, and I went with friends I was traveling with. And the ramen stations are slowly making their way over to the US, which is very exciting. Fans also travel to Korea for concerts, and while they're there, they'll visit restaurants their favorite musicians go to. We know how fast social media spreads that information, and there are always new trends that keep Korean food and desserts in the spotlight. For example, making banana milk coffee at the convenience store is a ritual now. With the exposure Korean food has gotten on social media, you see more people checking out their local Korean or Asian grocery stores and filming their reactions as they try new things. They try a mix of prepared foods to snacks and frozen meals. I've seen people try rice cakes, samgakkimbap, even marinated crab for the first time, and they do it all in their cars for some reason. And I'm proud to say that most of the reactions are positive, and it's fun to see people inspiring each other to try new experiences. I think people are drawn to Korean food because there's a range to it. There's the comfort and trendy foods, but there's also healthy and vegetarian-friendly dishes like sundubu, japchae, all the banchan. So there's a lot for people to explore.
Right, I have to admit, I've yet to taste the banana milk coffee at convenience stores here.
You'll
Hsueh
have to
Yun,
do it today.
for sure. Hsueh Yun, you previously wrote about Korea's samgyetang being tailored to better suit the local taste buds there in Singapore. What are your thoughts on this form of fusion, if you will?
Okay, well, I think they create very good buzz. And I think maybe, really good headlines to have a Tom Yum Samgyetang and, a mala version or a kind of a cheese version. But when you look deeper and you dig into the kinds of the versions of the chicken soup that diners are ordering, the restaurants are telling me they're going for original, for collagen, for all the classic versions of the soup. So I think that it might be an interesting draw to have a restaurant with 12, 13 different kinds of versions of the soup. But a lot of Singapore diners still would gravitate to the classic versions.
Right. Yun-sun, in your article, you referred to Korean food pairing as a form of art. Do you suppose this art is uniquely Korean or is it universal?
I wouldn't say it's uniquely Korean. American food has fried chicken and waffles. French cuisine has cheese and wine. In Taiwan, one of my favorite breakfasts was soy milk and youtiao. I think one thing that sets Korean food apart is the act of ordering multiple dishes to eat together. When you're eating jjajangmyeon and jampong, many people will order 탕수육, and that's possible because sharing is a core part of Korean dining culture. To support solo diners, you'll see the lunch sets with half portions of noodles and 탕수육 because people love the combination so much and they don't want to give it up. And I love that restaurants made these sets so that customers can really enjoy the full experience without wasting food. I called combining Korean flavors an art because a Korean meal is built from so many layers. We have the main dishes, banchan, rice, soup, and there isn't just one way to eat it. It's up to you and your palate to decide how you want to enjoy it, and it makes it a fun experience unique to you. We could share a meal together and leave with a completely different experience depending on which dishes we focused on. There are a variety of flavors, savory, sweet, spicy, on the table for you to mix and match. And of course, there are people who don't like to mix food at all, and that's okay too. But it's funny because once a pairing is discovered, Koreans really commit to it and there's no turning back. There's a real satisfaction in getting the right combination for a meal.
Right, for sure. Hsueh Yun, what do you believe are the defining characteristics as well as perhaps the unique appeal of Korean food and its cuisine?
Well, I think in Singapore, we're familiar with some of the, in the formats like noodles, for example, like soup, herbal soup. Many of us grew up drinking herbal soup that our mothers would brew for us. But the thing is with Korean food is that it's just the flavors are just different enough. The spicing, the kind of heat in Korean food is very different from the heat in our local food. And it's just interesting enough and just different enough for people to really get addicted to it. So I think that is the sort of interesting aspect of Korean food. And the other another factor is that how adaptable it is, and how many trends emerge from Korea, and it keeps people who are interested in food sort of like looking out for the next big thing in that's coming out of Korean food. Like just consider the Dubai chewy cookie, right? We had bakeries in Singapore replicating it and selling it and queues forming for it. So and then of course now the current trend is butter talk, right? The little cakes, and now like other people are jumping on the bandwagon to offer it. So I think that is the appeal of Korean food is ever changing and it's always new and fresh.
Right, I had no idea that butter talk was popular in Singapore as we speak.
Oh, even as we speak, I'm sure bakeries are trying to reverse engineer it to produce it.
I see.
Yeah.
Yun-sun, your article not only covers Korean food pairings based on taste, but also on the weather, the mood, and specific situations. Do you suppose this particular reality bolsters interest in as well as understanding of Korea and its culture?
I feel like it makes the experience really relatable because emotions are something everyone connects with. In the US, you have pumpkin spice lattes in the fall or warm soups in the winter, both which are seasonal foods that offer comfort in the colder months. Korean food culture does something similar, but often in more everyday situational ways to turn the day around. Sometimes you're lucky enough to be home when it starts raining so you can adjust your schedule, but other times the rain will ruin your plans. But instead of ending the day there, you have the option to sit under a covered porch, watch the rain fall with a steaming plate of crispy chan and a bottle of bubbly makgeolli to make the day better. Another example is eating samgyetang on the hottest day of the year. As a child, when I was in Korea one summer, I remember being so miserable in the heat, and the adults were making samgyetang in the kitchen, and I could not understand why they were excited about it. But now I see it as a way to recover and feel re-energized to endure the brutal summers. And in everyday life, this turns up in other foods as well. Chimek, chicken and beer, is often associated with celebrations or watching sports, but it can be something you enjoy after a long day at work. Eating spicy food is another way people de-stress. I think what stands out is that Koreans find food and comfort in food, and there's a real sense of rewarding yourself and having something to look forward to. So overall, I feel like these traditions help international audiences understand that Korean food isn't just about what you eat, but when and why you eat it and how it fits into everyday life.
Right, spicy serving of tteokbokki for me after a stressful day, right? Hsueh Yun, is food culture a form of soft power? And if that is the case, what role do you suppose Korean food has had in perhaps expanding Korea's cultural presence on the global stage?
Well, I think it's absolutely it's a form of soft power, and I think most of us get into Korean food from watching Korean movies and from watching Korean dramas, listening to K-pop, and like finding out what the idols' favorite foods are, right? And together with K-pop, K-drama, K-movies, K-beauty, they are a powerful draw for people all over the world because when you kind of fall in love with K-pop, when you fall in love with Korean dramas and you see people eating, interesting food on screen, you want to share in that, right? And you want to find out a little bit more about it and you want to savor it yourself. And I think they all four of these forms of soft power work in concert to raise the profile of Korea all over the world.
Hsueh Yun, this is a impromptu question. If I were to ask you what your favorite Korean food was, what would you highlight?
Okay, that's really tough. Okay. I would say bibimbap. I love that. Uh, and Korean fried chicken.
Right, fried chicken and bibimbap. Bibimbap I like very much as well. Right, great
Yes.
response. Right.
Yeah.
Yun-san, beyond what you share in your article, are there any other Korean food pairings or perhaps Korean food culture or a dish that you would like to highlight right now?
One pairing I would love international audiences to experience is jokbal and makguksu, which is kind of similar to bibimbap. Makguksu is a cold noodle dish that's spicy, tangy, really chewy, while jokbal, braised pig's trotters, has a softer, rich, gelatinous texture. And together they balance each other really well in terms of flavor and that texture. It's a combination my whole family enjoys, including my grandma. So we always end up checking out new restaurants when we're in Korea. For travelers in Korea, 한정식 would definitely be a meal I'd recommend. It's a traditional course meal with numerous dishes that fill the entire table, and it makes eating with few banchan feel very modest in comparison. One thing people could try at home is doing Korean barbecue. It could be a really fun social meal to recreate with family and friends. You can set up a grill or have a portable burner at the table so everyone can make their own sam as the meal cooks. And it works really well for a potluck since everyone can bring different sides to share.
Yun-san, this is also an impromptu question. A while back, we had a talk about the popularity of frozen kimbap in the US. Is that still the case there?
Yes, in the beginning, it was so crazy because I remember growing up, my mom would pack kimbap for me for lunch, and the kids in the on the bus were like, "What's that weird smell?" And then I told her she could never pack that again. So it's just so crazy that when it first came out at Trader Joe's, it was selling out for months, and now it's a little bit easier to find it again.
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, my mom used to make barley water for me, and a number of my friends were not very comfortable with water being that particular color. But now, of course, barley tea is really popular. Hsueh Yun, speaking from your perspective as a journalist covering food and dining trends, of course, what do you suppose are the future trends of K culture with regard to food?
Well, I'm hoping that people all over the world would delve a little bit more deeply into the cuisine, like I have been trying to do, and that there's like a whole Korean drinking culture that I find very fascinating. And we have got books like Soju Party, which kind of talks a little bit about, the stories behind how these sort of rules of engagement have come about, right? And of course, there's like the classic food pairings, which I think is great. I mean, for someone who is not Korean, these are very interesting things to know. So I'm hoping that people will discover the nuances of the cuisine, and not just focus on trends or on popular foods, but to delve deeper and how the food links with the culture, I think is very important as well. So those are my hopes for for people all over the world discovering Korean culture through its food.
Right, my hopes as well. Right, that was Tan Hsueh Yun at the Singaporean daily The Straits Times, a senior correspondent for food, of course. Thank you so much for your time and your thoughts, Hsueh Yun.
Thank you for having me.
And Park Yu-san, contributing writer for British broadcast to the BBC. Yun-san, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Right, that is all the time we have for this edition of Press Perspective. Thank you for watching. Be sure to join us again same time tomorrow.